Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Cinematic Adventures. As always, I'm one of your podcast hosts, Paul, and with me is my podcast life mate, hetero life mate, as Jay and Silent Bob go by, Sean. Sean, how are you today?
Always good to be back, Paul. I'm looking forward to this every week.
Oh, that's a lie, but anyway.
Oh, that is not a lie.
I feel like it's a lie.
I don't lie.
You just use this as an excuse to watch movies.
Well, come on.
So today, if you could not tell by our intro, we will be talking about another famous film franchise. So far we've talked about parody movies. We've talked about what was that little well-known franchise that we did?
Oh, something called Ghost Breakers.
Ghost Guys.
Ghostbusters.
Ghost Facers. Ghost Facers. No, yes, Ghostbusters last week. So we figured we'd keep the franchise train rolling along, and we are going to be talking about the Indiana Jones franchise today. One of the most iconic characters.
Iconic films. Obviously, Mr. Steven Spielberg.
Never heard of him.
Never heard of
him? Never.
Why are you doing this? You don't seem to know a lot.
I don't know anything. I'm just the hype man for you at this point.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah.
That's why I'm paying you under the table, man. You gotta, set me up a little more.
Set you up more for your famous podcasting career that's coming after this.
God, yes, can't wait.
He started here, folks. You guys remember that. But yes, Indiana Jones, created by Steven Spielberg and George Lucas. Lucas. It's French.
He did another famous franchise, one that we will be talking about most likely very soon.
Fanboys?
It's based off
That's a good one, yeah. We're going to talk about that movie. But yes, George Lucas of Star Wars fame, and Steven Spielberg, E.T., Close Encounters, like Jaws, the list goes on and on. We'll probably at some point we might do some spotlight episodes on different directors and different creators. You could do one for Steven Spielberg, but George Lucas really, yes, he's very famous for Star Wars.
George Lucas as a director, you do the first Star Wars and then the prequels.
Yeah.
But as just a creator, besides what he's given us to the film industry,
Industrial Light and Magic,
Skywalker Sound. These are what movie filmmakers of today, that's what they use. Pixar.
Oh yeah.
He didn't, and I'm not going to give him credit for Pixar because he actually let Pixar go, but that was started with George Lucas's company and stuff like that. So
Howard the Duck.
That is, I'm sure he sleeps well at night knowing that he helped create that one.
A duck with boobs and some very questionable female relationships.
Leah Thompson.
Oh, Leah Thompson. By the way, our other choice for tonight was Back to the Future, just so you guys know. That's another one we're going to be talking about.
Oh, definitely.
I think it's fun that we're hitting kind of franchises that have been around so long, but they each take different approaches. We talked about Ghostbusters and how they tried the full reboot, requel kind of notion, and it just didn't work at all. Now we're talking about Indiana Jones, where they did a sequel with such a big delay, and we'll talk about that at the end, with the last movie in the franchise, or the last current movie in the franchise.
Paul will have fun with that one.
Yeah, and then the results were incredibly mixed. And then, you look at a franchise like Back to the Future, where nobody wants to touch it.
No, nobody.
And the
nobody
fans are
wants
don't touch it.
Don't touch it. Also, I don't know. It's never been. I don't want to get on a rant about it, but it's never really been established why they never did another one. Whether it's just they didn't come up with
Back to the Future?
Back to the Future, yeah.
Well, they did the cartoon show.
The cartoon show, obviously, but that's perfect for that because with a cartoon show you can do anything you want.
Yeah, and I think the effects of a cartoon show sometimes lend better. Like Bill and Ted did it too. Yeah. Bill and Ted also had two.
That's another episode we could do. Just like how many 80s and 90s cartoons are based off of famous movies that just did not do well or did very well. You never know.
Yeah, and there are even some shows that do better than the movies.
Oh, yeah.
Or even in a modern context, there's a big push to get a Dredd TV show based off the Dredd movie. The Dredd movie was fantastic.
There was a TV show based off of the franchise we're going to be talking about today, Mr. Indiana Jones. Mr. Young Indiana Jones, which I believe was early 90s. It was something right after Last Crusade. Yeah, we'll get into that.
There was a whole big young push. Young Hercules was another thing. Yep. Young Indiana Jones, as we're going to talk about. But so let's do a little bit of the history of the franchise first. So we'll talk about Harrison Ford and maybe even have a little debate about if this is his most iconic character.
That is a tough debate. The famous question is, who would win in a fight, Indiana Jones or Mr. Han Solo?
Well, they both shoot first.
They do shoot first. According to George Lucas, though, Han doesn't shoot first.
Oh, God, it's the dumbest change they could have ever made.
But so in terms of the history of Indiana Jones, so this obviously all starts when Mr. George Lucas was back in the late 70s, was beginning his career as a filmmaker, and George Lucas as some of you may know, if you've watched many documentaries with George Lucas or interviews, he's very big on the old film serials of the 1930s and 1940s, which are the very low-budget sci-fi, action-adventure storylines. So he had two ideas in his head. He had one for a Star Galactic space, saga, which we all know now has become Star Wars, and then he had another one for an archaeologist who is, traveling around the world looking for rare objects and supernatural stuff like that. And obviously, then we know that became Indiana Jones. So, according to the history, he began the story for Indiana Jones before he started Star Wars. Why he went from Indiana Jones to Star Wars, I'm not 100% on. I believe he was working with another filmmaker at the time, and that filmmaker ventured off to do another project, so he kind of was like, I'm not going to continue this without that other guy.
Yeah.
So obviously, we got Star Wars. Huge, unbelievable hit.
And
changes his life, and now it's strictly Star Wars, so they do Empire Strikes Back in 1980, and then around 1981, Steven Spielberg, who, if you can believe it, was not having the best of luck in his career.
Yeah, it was kind of his dry spell there.
He had obviously two back-to-back blockbuster hits in Jaws and Close Encounters of the Third Kind. But then his third movie called 1941, one of my favorites, I like that movie, bombed at the box office.
Which is strange.
Which is strange, because you watch the movie now, but you can understand why it was not a big hit when it came out. But I think it's grown a cult following, obviously over the last 40 years. The one common denominator in all three of those films was they all came in over budget by a lot of money.
Yeah.
Now, you make Jaws, you make Close Encounters, they're okay with that. You make a bomb and you're over budget, not so good.
Waterworld.
Postman.
Oof. All right, let's stop picking on Kevin Costner.
And I like Kevin Costner.
Without his English accent.
Oh, here we go. But, so, long story short, George Lucas obviously wanted Steven Spielberg to do the Indiana Jones movie, and the studio did not want Steven Spielberg to do it because they felt there's no way he's going to come in under budget. So Lucas went to Spielberg and said, listen, I want you to do this, but you need to promise me that you will come in under budget. And Spielberg says, I swear to you, I will do whatever it takes to come under budget. I will not let you down.
And what happened?
He did not let him down.
Oh, thank God. And this kind of reinvigorated Spielberg at the time.
Revigorated in a way, like, again, one bomb, but it.
But then you look at like somebody like Shyamalan, who was on a hot streak and then just continuously bombed.
Yeah. So this, and Spielberg has said I don't know if anyone's seen it, the big documentary they did a couple years ago on HBO, just normally titled Spielberg. George Lucas saved his career. He fully believes that, because who knows what Spielberg would have done if he didn't get Indiana Jones. He just might have been one of those pops up every now and then, does like a good action movie or something like that. But this propelled him to do his future work that led to numerous more success.
Yeah, and like when we do a spotlight on him, we'll talk a little bit more about the lasting impact. Like, I mean, you look at a show like Stranger Things right now. Yep. You see parody, homage to a lot of his work all the time.
Tiny Toons,
Family Guy's famous for doing little spoofs on him, and Robot Chicken did a great one with him and George Lucas, where I think it was an Indiana Jones spoof they did, and George Lucas is just in the background holding bags of cash, and Spielberg's like, I'm sorry about the film, and George Lucas comes in, I'm not. We're good. We're good. Because George Lucas is the king of getting his money.
Oh, absolutely.
For those of you guys who don't know, for Star Wars, he retained, I want to say, all the merchandising rights.
Yes.
Because the studio had such little faith.
Oh, little faith. And again, Lucas felt, he was like, I don't know what this movie's going to become, but let me at least get the merchandising rights. I'll make some money off T-shirts, off movie posters.
If he made just the money off of toy lightsabers, he'd be set for life. And that's why when they sell Star Wars for $4 billion
to Disney.
Oh God, I can't wait to talk about that.
Oh,
I cannot wait to talk about that.
So, I guess that's about the history of it. Now, I guess we'll focus more in on now the casting.
Oh, yeah. Anybody famous in this cast? Say Alfred Molina. Say
Alfred
it.
Molina. Alfred Molina. Dr. Octopus.
Yes, in like one of his first big roles.
Yeah, he was a theater actor, and I think this was like his first
Throw me the idol.
First major film appearance, but obviously it's Mr. Harrison Ford is the star of the movie. Not the first choice, if you knew that. Did you know that?
I think I've heard of that. I don't know who the first choices were.
So the first choice was Mr. Tom Selleck.
I did know that, actually. Now that you say that,
there is a clip of, what do you call it, a screen test that Tom Selleck did, and he was the first. Well, let me rephrase that. Harrison Ford was Steven Spielberg's first choice.
Okay.
Not George Lucas's.
Which is strange.
But Lucas was like, listen, I don't want him to be in every movie I make. He was in
the
Star Wars films. He was in American Graffiti. George Lucas was like, listen, I love Harrison, but I'd like to try and do something else.
And also, we're gonna talk about Harrison Ford but Han Solo and Indiana Jones are they're very similar characters.
Similar characters, but
just in terms of action.
Yeah.
In terms of actual character, I consider them different. More towards the end of Return of the Jedi, though, Han Solo gets watered down.
Yeah, fair enough.
To a point. But so Harrison Ford takes on this role, this iconic role. You picture Harrison Ford, you're either picturing him in the vest of Han Solo or the fedora of Indiana Jones.
I think the fedora is more.
I think his Indiana Jones look is way more iconic because
just that silhouette. That's all you need.
It's unique in its own movie universe because you look at Star Wars. Star Wars has so much amazing imagery.
Oh, yeah.
Like if I were to say Star Wars, you're going to think of a trillion different things.
I'll think of Darth Vader before I think of Han Solo.
Darth Vader is definitely one of the most iconic aspects. I mean, the scene in Rogue One, still
one of the few good parts of that movie. Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
I'd say that scene with Darth Vader is one of the best Star Wars scenes in cinema history, especially after the prequels. Which, man, we're gonna do like a 3-hour episode on Star Wars. It's gonna be rough.
The prequels I think are gonna have to get their own episode. The original trilogy will get its own episode, and then the sequel trilogy will get its own 5 minutes.
Which is about as much time as they put into the script.
Yeah, pretty much.
But anyway, and as much time as Rose and Finn got.
So, with Raiders of the Lost Ark, I mean, I guess we can focus on what's your first memory of Indiana Jones?
Ironically, this was the first movie that I saw because, you and I are, for those of you guys who don't know, we're in our early 30s. And I think we were. When did Raiders come out?
Raiders was 1981.
Yeah, so a little bit before our time.
Yep.
So by the time we were old enough to appreciate these movies or even watch them,
they were on VHS.
They were all out.
Yeah, on TV.
So I remember my first time seeing Raiders of the Lost Ark, or seeing any aspect of it, was at my family's shore house. They were watching the scene with the snakes, and it scared me too much as a little kid. I was like 5 or 6.
Yeah.
That I couldn't watch it, and I ran out. I literally just walked in, they were watching that scene, and it was, why did it have to be snakes? And I was like, why did it have to be snakes? Adults that are supposed to protect me from everything ran out. But that's one of my first earliest memories of Indiana Jones. And Raiders was the first one that I saw, and I'm pretty sure I did the traditional order: Raiders, Temple of Doom, Last Crusade, and then obviously.
If you can, again, it's weird with me.
Shocking.
I don't have an initial memory of the first time I saw them, but I do remember. I think I remember Temple of Doom might have been the first one I saw. I don't know why. It's again. I mean, it's also, and we're not going to give anything away here. I think it's not a trilogy you have to watch in order. It's not you have to see 1 to know what's going on in 3. So like you can watch Last Crusade. You can watch, Temple of Doom first and not feel like you've missed anything.
Yeah, they're very standalone. They're very serialized.
Very James Bondish. You're not.
Yeah.
There's no last scene where you're like, oh my god, I can't wait for the next one.
Mm-hmm.
There's no, Luke. There's no I am your father. Like, oh, I gotta wait 3 years now for the next one. There's no
Thanos snap.
There's no Thanos snap. There's no, Samuel L. Jackson at the end of Iron Man saying, Avengers Initiative, and you're like. 8 years later.
Oh, I can't wait to talk about the MCU. We're going to have to get the Multiverse fan cast onto that one.
That's a big thing for me is these movies are standalone movies. You can watch them anytime. You can watch any one you want. So for me, I just remember earliest memory I have, I just remember watching Temple of Doom. Surprisingly, it did not scare me much as a kid, that one. And
really?
That's considered the scariest one of the 3. What did scare me was the ending of Raiders.
Oh yeah.
For some reason, that bothered me.
So let's talk about the story of Raiders then. So very similar, very simple story. It's not complex. Indiana Jones, you get introduced to him in one of the most iconic opening scenes of any movie.
Yep.
You say Indiana Jones to somebody, they're most likely they're going to talk about the rolling ball.
Rolling ball, whip.
Yeah. But so he's an archaeologist who's also a
college
professor. Like, you don't know which one he really is. Like, he's...
Yeah, it's like, is he a college professor masquerading as an archaeologist, or is he an archaeologist masquerading as a college professor?
It's like the Batman, Bruce Wayne, Superman, Clark Kent kind of debacle. But so he gets hired by the U.S. government.
Yeah, the U.S. government comes to him because they know he has a connection to the character
of Marion.
Whose father was very big on the storyline, which is the Lost Ark of the Covenant. So they know he has a connection to him. They go to him, and he's like, well, I'm not that, great at it. This is, this guy. And they're like, well, we think he's in with the Nazis. And Indiana Jones was like, no, that's not possible.
Yeah.
So that starts the ball rolling. And so he ventures off to find Marion.
Up in the Alps.
Where
she outdrinks a Mongol, which
that's true.
What an introduction to a character.
That was a great scene. Because she has a piece that is needed to be able to find the location of the Ark.
But only if you come back tomorrow.
You got
to come back tomorrow. Now, I'm gonna address that scene because there's a big internet push right now that Indiana Jones might have taken advantage of her as a child. So the wording she used, so they show that they have a past relationship. They obviously were involved with each other at some point. I don't know what the ages of the characters are supposed to be. I don't know what the ages of the actors was at the time.
You never know.
So she makes a line about how I was a child, you took advantage. And like the internet, especially in today's modern culture, is like, well, is like a pedophile thing? Like, how old was he? I always just imagine like she was like 18, 19. He was like 24, 25, which whatever. That, say what you will. But there's like a whole big internet, like...
Of course there is.
Because, this is the age of political correctness, which I'm not going to comment on because that's, neither here nor there. I think everybody should just be nice to each other. But you look at it's a product of its times. Like there's no people are like diving into things like this.
Well, again, you have to know the time the movie was obviously set, the time the movie was written. It's just things were different back then. So I mean, like you write a line where again,
it's context.
The word child, could mean anything.
Like we're 33. Yeah. A child to us could be a 5-year-old. Or like a 20-year-old, just any. I called somebody a child, and they were only like 4 years younger than me, and I was like, "Oh, you're still a child." Still a child, young man. But it's just so weird, and that's one of the things I like about when we watch older movies. And we'll talk about it with like Blazing Saddles and stuff like that, or eventually maybe we'll even tackle the Disney Plus put on a disclaimer on some of their movies. That these are a product of their times. You look
Dumbo.
Peter Pan. Some of those have not. Like, they don't age well, but I think it's important that we recognize it and we just kind of... We understand. You can't erase culture. You can't erase history.
And no one's asking to be deleted. I just think, again,
it's just strange.
It's strange, but, they're taking the... HBO Max did it with Gone with the Wind.
I didn't know that.
You're putting in a disclaimer on the beginning of the film. I mean, you're not changing movie history. You're not deleting the movie. You're not getting rid of it out of our history, but you're just letting people know this was what it was like back then. This is why this was going on in these movies.
Mm-hmm. That's another great movie, Gone with the Wind.
Yes.
Oh yeah, we talk about that at some point. I got to rewatch it.
That would be a great episode if you go into the history of the year 1939, the greatest year in movie history to some people.
Oh, really?
Wizard of Oz, Gone with the Wind, right there. So,
we should just talk about 1939.
Yeah, we should. It's a great year.
But so we get introduced to Marion, and she plays around with Jones, like rightfully so. He can be kind of I don't want to say a word that I can't say on a family-friendly podcast, but he can definitely be not a macho man. But just a jerk. He can be a little blunt.
Yeah.
So he quote unquote leaves, and Nazi agents
is a good word.
They come in, and it's a great scene. What's the name of the bad guy with the hat? Do you remember his name off the top of your head?
Character's name I don't remember, but he's very
swarmy.
Swarmy. He's like the perfect recreation of like a Peter Lorre 40s villain.
Oh,
perfect.
Good evening,
Nazi
Fräulein.
German villain, and it was perfect casting. I can't remember the actor's name. I apologize, but he's
not going to take it personally.
I know, but still, I'm usually good at those things.
And his 19 unknown grunts comes in with
a great scin. Good.
Tense.
So gun tense. Battle.
I'd even say before that with the fire poker.
Yep.
That's pretty intense scene. Like
yep.
I'm like, oh god. And then Indiana Jones does his heroic entry.
His thing.
What was he doing? What was he doing? Just waiting?
He was just waiting.
Just waiting.
I'm sure he was just waiting outside. And
he's like looking at his watch going,
she's going to get in trouble in a minute.
She wasn't nice to me. Let me finish this
I'll give
drink.
It a couple seconds, and then I'll swoop in.
You ever notice that he never has to reload his gun?
That's true.
That was a big thing. And then, like, nowadays...
But that's the whole point of the serial, and that's why I think the movie's great, because, like, George Lucas is like, I want this to be sort of the hat never falls off, or, he's always able to get the hat before something happens. That type of stuff. I mean, that's what makes these movies so great, is they're based off of these just utter cruddy movies that just are...
Just no leaps in logic. It's just... You gotta disconnect for these movies.
Yeah,
you think about them too much.
Yeah.
But and then what? Marion joins up with them, and they
go to Cairo,
and they meet
Salah.
Salah, yes,
great character.
Thank God you remembered his name. He's another recurring character.
He's in the third one,
and then he's mentioned in Crystal Skull.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, they show a picture of him and the dad.
Yep.
But so
basically, they have the piece. They know they have the piece, so they know where they need to dig to find what they call the Well of Souls.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the area where they're going to find out where the Ark is buried. So there's this great scene where Indiana Jones puts the piece that he got from Marion on top of a staff of Ra.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of that Robot Chicken episode right now, and I'm trying not to laugh. So they find the area where they have to dig. They somehow are able to start digging around all these Nazis, and no one seems to notice.
And they have a whole crew.
These guys are just like, oh, yeah, okay, sure.
Oh, yeah, that's totally normal.
And then comes the famous...
Hi, Indiana.
comes the famous scene with the snakes.
Yes, one of the most iconic lines.
Oh, snakes. Why did it have to be snakes?
Yeah. And we find out in, Last Crusade, why he's so afraid of snakes.
Oh, yes.
You see the origin of his little snake phobia.
Yep.
But so the bad guys swoop in. They find the actual Ark, or they
Indiana Jones gets the Ark out of the well, but then, of course, the Nazis discover them.
What an inconvenience Nazis are.
I know, man. Yeah, they throw Marion into the well with Indiana Jones.
Doesn't he catch her?
No, she falls on a statue.
Oh, yeah. I was about to say, that's incredible.
And then I think he catches her or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
But so they're sealed in, thinking, oh, this is it for us. But they magically find a hidden passageway that hasn't been touched.
Yeah, there's always a way out.
Thousands and thousands of years.
You got to get the construction equipment in somehow.
And they're able to, escape and, find the Ark again.
Yeah.
They go onto a boat thinking, oh, we're free. And then what rolls up right next to them? A German U-boat.
Oh, we skipped one of the best scenes in the entire movie.
Oh, with the...
oh, my gosh.
With the Nazi plane wing.
I'm talking further. The Cairo chase scene.
Oh.
So there's a scene in the movie where Indiana Jones is chasing it. Marion's been captured. She's in a wicker basket.
Yep.
And he runs into a square, and the whole crowd parts, and he looks disgusting. Like he's just sweating, and his shirt's undone because it's Harrison Ford in the 80s.
Well, and also in real life, he was, I believe,
dysentery.
Dysentery, which I think a lot of the crew was apparently in Cairo.
And people on the Oregon Trail.
Yep.
Yeah, they all died from that. But they had this elaborate fight scene that was supposed to take place, but unfortunately, they were all sick.
Harrison Ford was just like, I can't do this. Can I just shoot the guy?
And the guy was apparently pissed. He was like, this is like my big movie role.
Yeah. And as of many of you know, the big scene, he's wheeling the knife around. Looks like it's going to be, this big, oh, God, what's Indiana Jones going to do? Pulls out a gun, one shot, he's dead.
And the music.
Music. It is perfect. It really is. I mean, that's an example of, again, I think that's where it's very much like the shark not working in Jaws. Like, sometimes things just happen and it makes it even better.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So that's one of those, who knows what that fight would have been like. I'm sure it would have been good.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure it would have been great.
But we get it, though, in the plane scene that you mentioned where, he's fighting the giant Nazi guy and Marion's in the plane going, Indy! It's just spinning around. She's, killing people. Marion kills a fair amount of people in this movie.
She does pretty good for herself.
But, so, long story short, because we don't want to spend too much time on each movie. We're already pushing a half hour. We just started. But,
sorry, folks. Can't help it.
Sorry, not sorry. No, really. Please like, comment, subscribe, and share with your friends. But so there's a great scene where the Nazis are all marching, and Indiana Jones catches up to them because he jumped into the submarine and all that. And then he gets captured because he's like, I'm not going to blow up this thing, actually. Come on, guys.
Come on. I'm an archaeologist. I know how much this thing is worth. I'm not going to destroy it.
And so the Nazis decide to open it because they're actually not going to turn it over to Hitler. They want to use the power for themselves. Mm-hmm. And they all die very gruesomely.
For 1981, it's like one of the bigger effects moments.
The face melting still gets me. It's so good. The sound.
I think it was one of the first times they used blue screen or green screen.
Something like that.
The actors even say it's like, we weren't looking at anything. Mm-hmm. We didn't know what we were looking at. So we had to react to nothing.
Nowadays, you look at tennis balls, people in CGI pajama things.
It's one of those very famous endings where literally everyone dies except for Indiana and Marion.
And did you see the Big Bang Theory episode where they say that literally the whole movie would have taken place with, like, if Indiana Jones had not been involved, the movie wouldn't have changed.
Well, yeah.
Like the Nazis still would have opened it and all just died. Great. I'll argue that, Sheldon did not handle that well. I'll argue, though, that they wouldn't have found it.
No, because they didn't have the piece.
Yeah.
The whole point was
Marion would have been captured.
Marion would have been captured. And
dang it.
So, okay, fair enough. I guess we're ending this now. Sorry, guys.
We'll be upstairs. But, and then one of the best scenes and one of the most off-parody scenes where, where's the ark going to go? It's going to be examined by top men. Who?
Top men.
And just in a crate in a warehouse filled with trillions of other objects.
And James Woods.
And Paul from the movie Paul.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, talking to Mr. Spielberg. I think his finger can glow or something. Yeah, whatever you want to do, Steven. But and that's Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Raiders of the Lost Ark went on to be a huge blockbuster hit. Obviously, rejuvenated Steven Spielberg's career. His next film was a little-known alien story called E.T. So to go from Raiders of the Lost Ark to E.T.
Yeah, what a weird jump to go from Indiana Jones to aliens.
Yeah.
Weird.
Foreshadowing.
Wow.
So we get past E.T. I believe after E.T. came our sequel to Raiders of the Lost Ark, promptly titled Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom.
Sounds like a fun family film.
It sounds like a great PG movie.
Oh, was it PG?
It was PG, and that's apparently Spielberg was against that.
Yeah. Why was he against that?
Because he felt the movie was too violent to be a PG movie, but he felt it wasn't violent enough to be rated R.
So this was during a time, for those of you guys who don't know, where the PG-13 rating was not. It was non-existent.
It was G, PG, then R.
Yeah.
So basically, you were either a family-friendly movie or you were a rated R movie. There was no middle ground.
No in between.
So Mr. Steven Spielberg decided to wield his power and talk to the Motion Picture Association of America and was like, I really think there needs to be
something
in the middle, PG-15, PG-16, something, or and they're like, oh, I'll get back to you. 2 hours later, okay, we're going to come up with this PG-13 rating.
Yeah.
And Temple of Doom is given credit for that. Another movie that came out that year that's also apparently was part of that push was Gremlins.
Oh, yeah.
Gremlins was another one that was PG, but many people thought, it's a little more.
The second one could have been PG. I think the second one was PG.
Probably.
But and then you look at a movie like Jaws, which is PG.
Jaws is PG, but that would have been an easy PG-13 if it were.
Oh, yeah, especially nowadays.
Yeah. So
Shark still looks fake.
So we get to the Temple of Doom, and in terms of, apparently when Spielberg first agreed to do Raiders of the Lost Ark, George Lucas said, well, you got to sign on for 3 movies. What? I got 3 ideas we're going to do. And so Spielberg was like, okay, fine. Come across, we get to Temple of Doom, and apparently George Lucas did not have 3 stories in mind, so they had to come up with the idea all fresh and all that. So
George Lucas lying about his aspirations about a franchise? What? What are you talking about?
Then we get into the whole... how did they get to this storyline? George Lucas has openly said, I was going through divorce at the time, so I wasn't in the greatest of moods, so the story got really dark.
Yeah. Also a prequel.
You're right. I keep forgetting that part.
It takes place before
Raiders of the Lost Ark. Whenever I bring that up to people, they're like, what?
But again, you wouldn't know.
You wouldn't know. There's no...
The only reason you know is because they put the year in the beginning of the movie.
That's
true. The only reason. Same with the Raiders.
Yep.
Yeah. But we got... Great opening set piece.
Harkens back to a nice 1930s, movie musical with a good little dance number. And our new Indiana Jones.
Annoyance.
I think that's strong.
Oh, my God, it's not strong. It's
she
being
wasn't
nice.
that bad.
Willie.
Miss Kate Capshaw, the future Mrs. Steven Spielberg.
I wonder how she got the role.
She didn't want, not like that. Not like that.
It is Hollywood. But anyway, so playing Willie Scott.
Willie Scott.
Lounge singer.
I guess you could say arm piece to a gangster at the beginning. You could tell there's something there.
About as anti-Marion as they could possibly go. They wanted to go the complete opposite, which is strange because Marion, especially nowadays, is considered such a strong female character.
Yeah. I think they wanted to go the Bond route, have a different, different female character in each movie. I don't quote me on that. I don't know if that's exactly.
It would make sense, but
I think they also determined was like, do we really just want to play on the Raiders of the Lost Ark, or do we want to make a totally different story?
Yeah,
they were big on. They don't want to just play off of what they did successfully. They want to do something different. Mm-hmm. Hopefully, it captures the same. So another character introduction, and I'm upset we never saw him again, and that is Short Round. I love that character. I love Short Round.
Well, you saw him in the Goonies also.
Yeah, but he's not the same character.
So let's talk about Short Round, because now there's a whole big, again, 2020, there's a lot of accusations about a little bit of racism in this movie, especially with Short Round. Very thick Asian accent, but they did it in Goonies too. Did you see the movie Kicking It Old School with Jamie Kennedy and Michael? So it's about a guy who wakes up from a coma after going into it in the 80s, and they have an Asian friend, and they make him say all the lines, and then they catch up with him in the future, and he's like, no, I talk normal now. But that was it was an 80s trope to have I hate to say it, the Asian, or not even the Asian, the culturally different person. Like that 70s show was famous for it with Fez. They always had kind of that, which, okay, cool, cultural diversity, but not when you play to the stereotypes of it. So, we love Short Round. He's a great character.
Mini Indiana Jones.
Yeah, and, there's a little backstory that they give about him, like why he's with Indiana Jones, they talk about. So, I don't think he's in any way meant to be a racist character. I think he was a great sidekick, way better than Shia LaBeouf's character, who we'll get to. But, because he also did things.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll get that out of the way. But Monkey Brains.
Monkey Brains, that's right. So
this movie was kind of gross.
It was. They went over the top in this one. So basically, after he meets the K-Capture character, a gunfight ensues between him and the gangsters that he was working with, because they apparently tried to kill him the night before paying him. Yada yada yada.
Can't trust a gangster.
They end up on a plane that is magically being flown by two guys who work for said gangster. So while they fall asleep, the pilots decide to jump out of the plane and leave the plane, flying towards mountain. And then we have the famous scene of them jumping out of the plane with a raft.
Stewie and Brian did it better.
No.
We're not falling. We're crashing.
And then a great scene of them flowing down rapids and all that stuff. Apparently it was written for the original, for Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah, probably budget.
Yeah, probably budget. That, the minecart race, were all technically supposed to be in Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Oh, jeez. Oh, fun facts for everybody involved.
Again, don't want to get too crazy here. So they flow down the river. They end up at the foots of this village that is apparently just in horrible, horrible straits. They discover that there's no children in this village, and they're very confused by this. What's going on?
Quiet village.
Very quiet.
Ugh.
They discover that the village was the home of these 3 sacred rocks.
Yeah, let's just
rocks. And they were stolen by this cult that we now know, the Kali cult. And along with that, this cult stole all the children of the village to use as slaves in their underground torture chamber, or whatever they called it. So, of course...
Also known as Disneyland.
Oh, that's true.
We're not monetized yet, so it's fine.
Oh, God. This was fun, Paul.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun. It's a tiny, tiny world.
Well, I'll put you in the next Tim Allen movie.
No. God. I miss Tim Allen. But anyway.
So, again, they go to the castle and they are looking to see what they can do. They come across a little prince, and it seems to be all's normal.
With the exception of the dinner choices.
With the exception of the dinner, where it's one of the most disgusting dinners ever.
Apparently, actually,
that's what they ate back then.
Oh, now I'm hungry, and now I'm also not hungry at the same time. Dang it. What are those pigs in a blanket?
Snake. Surprise.
Chilled monkey brains.
Chilled monkey brains, and then soup with eyeballs in it.
Yeah, totally normal.
It's one of the more, it's probably one of the more memorable scenes, over the top scenes. Spielberg openly said, I had a lot of fun making that scene, because it was just, I was trying to be gross out as much as I could without it being too crazy. So we get to them discovering a secret passageway, and they find their way to the underground chamber of this cult.
You know, it's funny because, like, growing up, I really thought secret passageways were going to be a more prominent feature in my life after watching all these movies.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I expected, like, every book, like, if I went to a library or something like that, I'd be like, all right, one of these books is going to open it.
Oh, yeah.
Just start tapping the books. But
Put
nope.
the book back.
Well done.
So, and then comes probably one of the most surprising scenes. Definitely, if you talk to a lot of people, it's one of the scenes that, you know, freaked them out as kids.
Oh, the bug scene?
No. Well, the bug scene is one. But I'm talking about the
the heart. Oh, yeah, the heart thing.
Kali Ma. You know, that scene's just like, holy, that they got away with that. Like, woof.
And it's still homage today.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And Family Guy, which is homage
to
everything.
I'm not Shivai. Shut up, Meg.
Oh, Meg. So we get to that. I don't know where else to go in this movie. It's, you know,
they managed to escape. Indiana Jones is mind controlled at one point.
Short Round comes to the rescue.
I love you, Dr. Jones. I'm never going to see you again.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
They rescue all the children.
They have the fun minecart
escape, which is a fun, you know, little scene. Then they have a fight on a
bridge.
On a bridge that is, you know, like one of those old decrepit bridges.
And he looks so 80s in it with the one sleeve missing and the sword. And like, oh, he looks like pure 80s.
Yep.
Like him and John McClane would look really good together. Yeah.
Like
call. Yeah.
So, and again,
bad guy dies. Gets eaten by alligators.
Everybody comes up roses. Children are returned. It looks like Indiana Jones and Winnie are going to be happily ever after.
And then he's still all... And then in Raiders of the Lost Ark, he's like, well, I don't believe in any of this silly stuff.
Oh, no. And so, movie over. Movie successful. Not as successful as Raiders, but still very good moneymaker. Mm-hmm. It was criticized, again, for being very, I guess, violent is the word. And that was 1984, and then it took them 5 more years before they decided to make the third one. And
they were waiting for
what they thought was going to be the final one. So I'll let you...
Evident by the title alone, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
What would you think of if you heard that title?
That we're done.
Wow.
But, you know, you look at this franchise as a whole, Raiders will always be like my favorite one, but Last Crusade and Raiders are sometimes they're tied.
Last Crusade has grown on me over the last couple of years.
But I think I will honestly say that Last Crusade is written slightly better.
Fair enough.
You look at Raiders of the Lost Ark, the funniest lines come from Indiana Jones or Marion and in their interactions. But the interactions with Henry Jones and Henry Jones Sr.,
it's great.
God. It's like the scene where they're in the chairs and it's Junior, what? Junior, what? And they just keep going over their shoulders. Just it always makes me laugh. They have a great dynamic. They have a very natural chemistry that worked really well. Played by Bond himself,
Sean Connery.
Sean Connery. I don't know how they got such different accents being father and son. But
it works.
They have a really fun. It starts off with a great flashback to when he was young. And
by Mr. River Phoenix, late River Phoenix, the brother of Academy Award winner Joaquin Phoenix.
River Phoenix had great hair.
Did.
Oh, wow. Then it shows there's a great scene on the train where he lands in the pit of snakes, and that's why he's afraid of snakes.
Shows him his first use of a whip.
Yep.
How he got the scar. How he got, well, that's Harrison Ford's scar, not Indiana Jones' scar, but it shows him how he got the scar, how he gets the hat.
Oh, yeah.
Basically how he becomes Indiana Jones.
At least, yeah, the start of it. It belongs in a museum.
Apparently, I don't know if you've heard this little there's apparently, it's not official, but the I guess you could say archaeologist that is chasing him at the beginning of that movie, the one that gives him the hat, is supposed to be Marion's father.
That would be a fun little twist.
Ravenwood. It's never fully established, but when I heard that, I was like, I hope so. That would be great.
That'd be fun.
That would be
a
good.
Fun little thing.
Yeah.
But cuts back to modern time, and basically in this, it's the search for the Holy Grail.
Yep.
And Indiana Jones is also on he's really just looking for it to find his father, who's gone missing.
And him and his father have never had a great relationship, as you can see in the opening scene. His father is very,
aloof,
preoccupied with the search for the Holy Grail, doesn't really pay attention to his son. So the whole search for the Holy Grail is basically the search for your relationship with your father, which is a big Spielberg theme in a lot of his movies.
Oh, yeah. Spielberg and family issues.
Yep. So you also see the return of some characters you liked from the original. Sala returns. Why am I blanking on his name?
The dean of the college?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't remember his name either. Because
Marcus,
that's it.
And he has a little more extended role in this movie. So they make him more of a comedic foil in this one.
Almost like a Q.
Yeah, it's
a little
fair.
bit.
That's a fair point. And we have another new Indiana Jones lady,
Elsa,
who is at first what you think is just sort of a sidekick to the father, helping him search for the Holy Grail.
Research assistant.
Research assistant. Good quote. Air quotes there. I like that.
On that one. What are we researching tonight?
So basically,
insomnia.
Indiana Jones is searching for the Holy Grail, following his father's notes. It leads him to this, I guess you could say, castle somewhere in the countryside.
Well, first the cathedral.
Well, the cathedral. They have this great scene under the cathedral where they're searching for like a coffin for one of the knights who discovered the originally discovered the Holy Grail. Mm-hmm. So you have a great scene with rats. Ugh. So in the first one it's snakes, in the second one it's bugs, and then in the third one it's rats.
And all of them, I'm still saying nope.
Oh, you couldn't get over your fear by watching these? It doesn't help you at all?
Negative, Ghost Rider.
So they had that great scene there. They think they discovered where his father is. They venture to that castle where they think he's been held captive. He finds them. But what happens? They discover that Elsa
has magical ice powers, and then she goes up into the mountains and creates a castle full of ice and sings a beautiful song.
No, I don't think that's what happens.
Let it go. No. Do you want to build a snowman?
Not really.
All right. Well, this bitch just died. But no. So Elsa is actually not only a Nazi sympathizer, but also a Nazi herself.
Yes.
And she is working against, or I guess for the interests, quote unquote. There's a lot of Nazis really working for themselves.
Yeah.
Who knew Nazis were so selfish?
And then there's the big villain of the movie is, I believe he's an American. He's a collector of antiquities and stuff, and
who kind of like sets the whole thing
in motion. He's the one that gets Indiana Jones, involved with this whole search because he's originally was working with the father.
Yeah.
But then we get this famous scene where, Elsa's being with a gun to her head and they're threatening to kill her, and Indiana Jones is like, "No, don't do it." And the father's like, "She's one of them. No, trust me, she's one of them." And
because she talks in her
sleep. One of the best.
Oh, one of the best. One of the grossest.
Harrison Ford's face is priceless. It really is.
I don't know how I'd react to something like that. Oh, God, he took it in stride.
He did. It's like, you're old enough to be your grandfather.
Then they bunny hop into the fireplace and all that. Oh, what a great... It's just a great...
They had a lot of... It was that movie... Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, I think the best word that describes it was fun.
Yeah.
Again, Spielberg openly told Lucas, is like, this movie has to be more lighthearted.
So, you look at certain movie franchises that have to take a tone change. The DCEU is famous for it. It went dark, and then suddenly it's like, well, we're going to try what Marvel's doing to mix results, admittedly. I mean, you look at Justice League's a mess. But this movie, the tone shift feels natural.
Yeah.
I know, as adults, as kids, we didn't notice it. No. They were all the same kind of movie, but as adults, and especially as, two guys just talking about movies for our podcast. That's our description, actually.
Oh, really?
Just two buddies talking about movies. But we see that, it was probably a backlash, not only from parents and critics and stuff like that, but also, as we said, George Lucas was doing his own.
Spielberg himself was openly critical. He says the only good thing that came out of Temple of Doom was he met his wife, Kay Capshaw. Yeah. So that's the best thing that came out of Temple of Doom for him. So, good ending to Last Crusade. They find the Holy Grail.
But the magic was inside you all along,
it was.
Sort of thing.
And we have a great send-off.
We also find out that he named himself after the dog.
He did.
Yeah.
The dog's name was Indiana.
He's like that Henry
dog.
Jones Jr. But what a great ending to the series. There's nothing that came after this. I think we're just kind of done for the entire episode. So if you guys...
fast forward to 2007.
Don't do this to me.
Don't do this to you.
Don't do this to me.
We could say it doesn't exist, but it's out there. It exists.
Shia LaBeouf. Oh, I broke Sean. If you've seen a Hot Tub Time Machine, you're going to know.
Break. I'm good. I'm all good.
So, what year did this movie come out?
2007. So, a whopping 18 years after Last Crusade. Now, little backstory to this movie.
Do we have
real quick.
All right.
So, apparently, I think they wanted to do this movie back in the mid-90s.
Okay.
94, 95. Paul just, punched his face with the microphone.
A little bit.
You really don't want to talk about this movie, do you?
I really don't want to talk about this movie.
So, Lucas had the idea, and it involved aliens. And Spielberg was on board for that. He was like, okay, great. I like that idea. What comes out in 1996? A little film called Independence Day.
Yeah.
And Spielberg was like, I don't think we should do this.
Yeah, then we
got to delay this for a while.
Then we look like we're deep impacting their Armageddon. Yeah, that's a deep cut right there.
I like Armageddon more. Just
Did
saying.
you really? Yeah.
I did.
No, that's fair. It's got a better soundtrack.
So nothing happens for another 12 years. We get to 2007. And finally, we get our new Indiana Jones film, Indiana Jones and the Curse of the Crystal... No.
The Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
I don't even want to know what the title is. The Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
All right, let's talk about the things we like first. Number one, Harrison Ford. What was that?
I like the opening.
The opening scene is fantastic.
Yeah.
And it showcased a lot of... Harrison Ford was in his mid-60s, I think, when filming this.
At least, yeah.
And he still had it.
Yep.
Now, like, he even says, like, one of the best lines is, this isn't going to be easy. And he's like, not like it used to be. But he's still very much reminiscent of the character. A lot of actors, especially Harrison Ford in his later years and Bruce Willis currently, they have been known to phone it in a little bit. And just especially Bruce Willis. He's been a little rough. Wow. Not that he listens. Sorry, Bruce. But so he definitely still has a love for the character, and he still puts in the effort for it. And, it was good to see him back. And then the theme plays. I like the Return of Marion.
Return of Marion was great.
The mythology was fun. There were some great visuals.
Yep.
The guys that pop out of the at the end, the natives that pop out of the stone casings. I was like, were you waiting there?
It was weird.
But it was still really cool.
Yeah.
This movie's like a hodgepodge of cool ideas.
It's set in the 1950s, so it's obviously, fast forwarded
Cold
in
War time.
I mean, we go from, late 1930s. The Nazis are just taking power in England. It hasn't even hit World War II yet. And now we're in the 50s with communism and
the Cold War.
That little backstory with the character, he's a war hero. Mm-hmm. He obviously went into World War II, so he was a war hero. He's still a professor. He's still out there searching for, antiquities, probably not as highly as he used to.
Yeah, more covert stuff.
But the Russians kidnap him because they know he was part of a mission where they were sent out into the middle of nowhere somewhere at night to study a crashed object or something,
which they imply is the Roswell crash.
They apply as the Roswell crash, and even Indiana Jones is like, I don't know what it was.
We just know that the contents were highly magnetized.
So there's this great scene where he throws gunpowder in the air and it just starts flying all across the warehouse, and finally they find the alien.
The alien body. Interdimensional beings.
That's what they were called. That's
right. That really just that grinds my gears. But then there's a great chase scene.
Good chase scene. Little nod back to Raiders where you see the broken crate with the Lost Ark in it.
I love the shot when he overswings and he goes into the window and he's like, "Damn, I thought that was closer."
That was perfect for the character at that time.
Absolutely.
I thought that was great.
Yeah. It's like
Kate Blanchett is the villain in this movie.
She was fun.
She was good.
Yeah.
Kate Blanchett's great in everything she does.
She's very good. She's fantastic. You can't go wrong.
But
with
I guess we have to bring him up. Just because he's in the movie, we have to talk about it, and that is Mr. Shia LaBeouf, who at the time
this was like
he was like
Shia.
the thing in Hollywood.
The Hollywood go-to.
He's this same year. I think Transformers came out before this movie.
It was around the same time,
but he had just hit his peak. He was in the first Transformers movie. That was a huge hit. He did the movie Disturbia, which was a kind of underground. It was like an underground popular movie the year before.
Oh man!
And then comes this movie, and
I will say he does the best with what he has.
The character wasn't greatly written, I'll agree, but I didn't think he was the right person to play that character. They could have found much different and better person to play that character.
I want the son of spoilers.
Oh,
the son of Indiana Jones.
No, why would you do that?
I'm sorry. The son of Indiana Jones should look like he could throw a punch.
Well, that too. They make him a greaser.
Which was fun. That aspect was fun. It was very the atmosphere and the scene in the
diners.
Get that greaser, and then Shake, Rattle, and Roll starts playing. That was fun.
That's Spielberg at his that's Spielberg doing his thing.
The motorcycle chase was fun, and him giving advice to college students as they're spinning through the library.
Yeah.
That it was fun. Then you get to the graveyard scene. The Mayan graveyard scene is actually really good.
That was good.
I do enjoy. You're a teacher? Part-time. Just a fun little scene.
Yeah.
Again, it's like a big mix of really cool concepts.
Just
didn't land always.
And throughout this whole time, Indiana Jones is asking Shia LaBeouf's character, like,
why are you here?
Why are you here? And he goes, I'm trying to, rescue my mom. I think she's been kidnapped. And
Marion Williams.
Mary Williams, and that doesn't register with...
There's been a lot of Marys, kid.
There's been a lot of Marys. So that doesn't register with Indiana Jones, so he has no clue that it's Marion Ravenwood. Mm-hmm. So comes the famous scene, well, famous is not a word, but the scene where they discover that it is Marion, and they have a nice little,
And she comes in with that same swagger. Indiana Jones.
It's like, why are you here? I could have taken care of this on my own. Mm-hmm. And we find out that Shia LaBeouf is the son of Indiana Jones and Marion Ravenwood, and something Indiana Jones had no idea of.
Or Shia LaBeouf. Mutt is his name. Mutt Williams.
And honestly, that's really all I got for this movie. There's nothing much more I need to talk about.
I will address the CG is terrible.
Yeah.
Like they do all these, like the monkeys and the ants and the gophers in the beginning. Like they for some reason they did all this big CGI use that really just they didn't need to.
They didn't need to.
It was like, look what we could do now. But nuking the fridge.
That I liked, though. I mean, it's
so dumb.
It's dumb, but I thought that harkened back to like the original, like just stuff that's unbelievable, but they get away with it.
So what happens is Indiana Jones gets in a refrigerator because he wakes, like he manages to make it.
He's escaping from the Russians, and he winds up in one of these nuclear test site, which is like a mock
city,
50s little village.
So he gets in a refrigerator that's lead lined.
Yeah.
And gets blown thousands of feet away from this thing,
and he gets not a single bruise,
not a single cut on his body. That's Indiana Jones.
That's Indiana Jones. That's the character, but it was over the top. I will admit that. It's like I remember people in the theater were like,
"What?
Wait, really?"
So I'm safe.
But there was that great scene where it's his silhouette right next to the atomic bomb.
Oh yeah, that's a great shot. Yeah, it's a great shot.
Great shot. And I was like, "Oh, this movie's gonna be awesome," and then just. No.
Yeah, downhill.
So, movie ends.
They get married.
There's this little like
hint
that is Shia LaBeouf going to be the next Indiana Jones? He goes to pick up the hat because it's magically like the wind is blowing it on the floor toward him. He goes to put it on, and Harrison Ford grabs it out of him and says, "Nah, dude, I'm not done yet." So, okay, movie came out, went to see it. Not great.
We did a marathon that day, I think. Oh no,
like a couple years later.
Yeah, we did the marathon.
A couple years later, but that was like that was during our peak of going to midnight showings to see movies and stuff.
Those are the days.
I don't think I could do that anymore.
Well, now they show them at 7.
That's so true.
It's funny to think that we used to go to midnight movies all the time. We loved it.
Oh yeah, because
Dark Knight was one of the best ones. Yeah.
Speed Racer.
Oh, Speed Racer. We got to do an episode on Speed Racer. That would be a fun time.
So, I guess real quick, there is another movie coming out, Indiana Jones 5. Don't know much about it because I don't even think it's started filming yet. Spielberg is not directing it.
Harrison Ford's in it, though.
Harrison Ford will be in it, which kind of...
He's so old.
That's the thing. It's like I thought Crystal Skull was pushing it. Yeah. This movie's going to push it.
They should have Adam Driver play the new Harrison Ford, new Indiana Jones.
But real quick, there was obviously for a couple of years now, ever since Disney bought Lucasfilm, the big rumor is, okay, when are you going to redo Indiana Jones?
Oh no! Please don't do it.
No, you don't want me to do it?
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, who'd you want to play?
It's too obvious. You're gonna make fun of me.
I'm not gonna make fun.
You're gonna make fun of me. It's the most obvious choice.
Well, which one is it?
Chris Pratt.
Okay.
I think he'd be a great Indiana Jones.
I think Bradley Cooper would have been a good Indiana Jones.
Not like a little bit longer ago. Like now not current. Bradley Cooper would have been.
Chris Pratt could still probably pull it off.
I think Chris Pratt would be a fantastic Indiana Jones. But unfortunately, they're going to compare him too much to Owen from the Jurassic movies.
Yeah, true.
Like same look, same kind of. He just stole Dr. Grant's hat. But I think that Chris Pratt would have been a fun choice. Trying to think like. Who else could really? Because it's
now we know it's not happening because they're going to obviously make an Indiana Jones 5.
Yeah.
We'll wait and see what obviously the plot of that movie is, how it what happens. But I mean, you would think Disney would want to like really take this franchise and run with it because I mean, you obviously actually now we don't know if we want them to, being that we see what what the Star Wars sequels have turned into. But hey, future looks bright for Indiana Jones. Hopefully, we'll see what that brings us and. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too. So we'd love to hear your thoughts on Indiana Jones, the franchise, the characters. Who would be a great recast as Indiana Jones currently? Do you want to see more sequels with Harrison Ford?
What do you want the new one to be about? What would you like to see?
Yeah. So the couple of ways you guys can reach us, the first and foremost way would be Facebook. We are constantly posting to Facebook. We're going to start doing some articles, things like that, but also all of our episodes go directly there. You can also find us on the Podbean app, which is our host podcasting location. You can find us on Spotify, we just got added to, Amazon Music, and Audible. Also, you can access us there. We're working on Apple Podcasts too, and I'm waiting to hear back from Google Podcasts. So you can find us all sorts of places, but as always, it's just great to hear from you guys, and thank you guys for listening. I'm Paul.
I'm Sean.
And we'll be back with another fun cinematic adventure next time. Take care, guys.
Have a good one.